Welcome to Maths with Dan, and today we're going to look at probability. We're going to look at, for example, different types of questions. For example, if you're given a table and it all having to add up to 1. For example, if you have a spinner or a dice. Very much the basics of probability and what you're going to do. And this relates to GCSE Maths, especially in the foundation paper. And enjoy the rest of the video. If you want any private tutoring lessons, my email is in the description below, and enjoy. So starting off with question 1. This is a very basic one you get right at the beginning. It's to do with a probability of a biased dice, and you have to pay attention that it's biased. Therefore, not every single probability that it will roll on each number is the same. The probability it will land on 5 is 0.3, making it's going to roll it 400 times. Work out estimate number of times the dice will land on 5. So because the probability is that it will land on 5 is 0.3, and rolling it 400 times, you do 0.3 times 400, because the probability is 0.3 that it believe that the dice will land on 5 0.3 out of the 1 times. Therefore, you times by 400 because it's rolling it 400 times. That's 120. You guys can pause it now, see if you're able to do this sort of question. This one's pretty much same as the last one, seeing if you're able to do it before I go through it. But it says Jack sows 300 wildflower seeds. The probability of a seed flowering is 0.7. Work out the number of these seeds that will flower. So because Jack sows 300 wildflower seeds, it's 300 of them, and the probability that it will flower is 0.7. So you do 300 times 0.7, because it wants to find out how much it will flower, and it will flower 0.7 out of 1 times. So it's 300 times 0.7. Put that in a calculator, 210. Moving on to something slightly more harder. Question 3. Angel Ltd manufacture components for washing machines. The probability that a component will be made within tolerance of 1/10 of a millimeter is 0.995. So that's a probability that it will be made within 1/10 of a millimeter. Angel manufactures 10,000 components each day. Work out an estimate for the number of components that will not, so this is not, be within the tolerance of 1/10 of a millimeter. So remember, all probabilities have to add up to 1. So in the question, it's given you for what it will be. So it will be within tolerance of 1/10 is 0.995. So you need to find out that it will not, because in the question, it's trying to ask what it will not. So you do the probability of 1 minus the probability that it will happen to find the probability that it won't happen. This is because its probability is out of 1. So if it's 0.995 likelihood that it will happen, it'll be 0.005 that it won't happen, because it's the leftover amount that it won't. So it either will or it won't. So with that, and because it says Angel Ltd manufactures 10,000 components each day, you find that it won't, you find the value, the probability that it won't, and you times it by how many it does each day. So you do 0.005 times 10,000. Pop this into a calculator, or you could do just multiplication tactics, and that gives you 50. So that it won't is 50. With this sort of question, question 5, it's pretty much, you know that Mia spins a spinner. Spinner can land on red, green, or blue, or like blue or pink. The probability the spinner will land on green or blue is all here. Remember, probabilities all have to add up to 1, and it wants to find that it will pink. So it all has to add up to 1. So you have 0.4, 0.1, 0.2. You add that up and you take it away from 1 to find what probability is left over that it will land on pink. So 0.4 plus 0.1 plus 0.2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0.7. 1 minus 0.7, because you're trying to find what it is for pink. So you 1 minus this because you're trying to find the leftover ratio. That is 0.3. Hope this makes sense. And then a question that's very similar to this is a 4-sided spinner. The sides of the spinner labelled 1, 2, 3, 4. The spinner is biased, so it's not accurate in terms of, it's not like fair in terms of what it will get. The probability that spinner will land on each of the 2 and 3 is given in the table. The probability that spinner will land on 1 is equal to probability it land on 4. So the likelihood of it landing on 1 is the same as 4. Work out the value of x. So you see how probability of 1 is x and probability of 4 is x, therefore it's the same. Remember how it all has to add up to 1? Everything has to add up to 1. So you do 0.3 plus 0.2 to get 0.5. And what's 1 minus 0.5? Because you're trying to find what's left over. 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5. So you know that both of these x's add up to 0.5. See, look, you've got 1 and 4. So you have to divide it by 2. 0.5 divided by 2 is 0.25. The next question is, Sarah is going to spin the spinner 200 times now. So it's going to spin it 200 times. Work out an estimate for the number of times it will land on 2. So 200, you see next to 2, it's 0.3. See how it's 0.3? So the likelihood of it landing on 2 is 0.3. Use 0.3 times 200. Which should give you 60. Another one pretty much same as the last one. Very equal. The probability that the spinner will land on each of the two of numbers 2 and 3 is given in the table. It's biased, so it's not fair. The probability that the spinner will land on 1 is equal to the probability that it will land on 4. It says it's biased because it's trying to show that not all of the probabilities are the same. If it wasn't biased and if it was fair, all the probabilities would be the same. So I was going to spin it 500 times, work out an estimate for the number of times it will land on 4. So you add 2 and 3 together, so you add 0.46 plus 0.28. Just put that into my calculator. Zero 0.72, 74 I mean, 0.74. And you know 2x, because you've got left over, you've got two numbers left over. You've got x for 1 and x for 2. So you do 1 minus 0.74, 0.28, because you're trying to find what's left over for 1 and 4. 0.26. And then you then divide that by 2, which gives you 0.13. And then 0.13 times 500 then gives you your answer. Times 500, man. 0.13 times 500. Gives you 65. That's it for today. So if you enjoyed, leave it a like. If you didn't, don't leave it a like. And I hope this helped increase your understanding on probability. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comment box down at the bottom, and I'll reply to it. Possibly make another video to explaining it. And see you guys soon.